All right, peace, family. It's Antoine Rivers, and I want to welcome you back to another powerful episode of The Conviction Fiction, the podcast where we challenge the narrative of life after incarceration, one story at a time. Now, of course, everyone should know April is Second Chance Month, a time where we shine a light on the reality that people can change, grow, and contribute if given the opportunity. Yeah, you can actually change, grow, and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you give us some claps for that, right? You can contribute if given the second chance. Now, but second chances aren't really um, just about legislation or programs. They're about people, real people stepping back into a world that's often moved on without them. So today we're walking through what it really looks like to come home after 15, 20, sometimes even 30 years behind bars. This isn't just theory, for real. It's the raw, unfiltered truth. I had to go through those steps, like stepping out of a prison after 15 years. I had to ask myself the question, what are the first steps? What other questions do you have to answer immediately? And what kind of support or the lack of support can determine whether you thrive or fall through the cracks. You know, that little word that we hate, recidivism. So if you've ever wondered what reentry actually feels like, stick with me because this episode is for anyone who's been locked away, anyone who's trying to make a way back, and everyone who believes in the power of redemption. All right. So I can remember when I first got home, I was scared as shit, bro. I was, man, my sister and my mom, they came and picked me up and I rode in the front seat of a car. And all I could say, it was moving. Right? No, actually, for real. I mean, there's no time to look around. It was moving. And it kind of scared me a little bit, right? Um, and I can just remember the sights and sounds. I just remember because most prisons there are tucked away. We talked about that on a previous episode, how most prisons are tucked away into rural areas, areas where there's like plenty of land and tractors, and they're not in urban settings, right? They're in the country. And I could just remember like going 70, 75 miles per hour. I told myself, hey, you need to slow this shit. You need to slow this down. Just a little bit, slow it down. Because I'm not really feeling that. You know, I've been transported across, lines and stuff. Um Handcuffs. I never was able to get into one of those planes like handcuffed to a plane, but I've been transported across state lines a couple of times. And it was never like this because I didn't, first of all, have on handcuffs. I didn't have on handcuffs. And that was scary as shit for me. Okay. So, with that being said, it's very important, like, to know that coming home after 15, 20 years inside, that's something you can't really prepare for. No matter how many times I pictured it, I saw it in my head, sitting on my bunk, talking to some of my, fellow inmates and convicts and, prisoners about it. I mean, you think about that moment so often, crossing the gate, touching the real grass, hugging someone you love without some CO standing there watching. But when it finally happens, it's not just one emotion. It's all of them at once. I mean, you're going to get some freedom. You're going to feel some fear. I know because I was afraid. Like I just left like a camp full of murderers and drug dealers and, people that really society don't look too good upon. Right. And then actually some good dudes in there. I also felt joy. And there was a little bit of guilt because now I'm home and I knew I had a lot of making up to do, like for family and people that believed in me. But there was also a lot of confusion. was a lot of confusion because like here I was, like the only possessions that I have was like in a little pillowcase. I think they let me keep the pillowcase. I can't remember. When you got released, I like somebody to jump in the comments or say like when you got released, did they give you a pillowcase or something to carry your stuff in, or what was that bag looking like? I don't think it was luggage. I don't think you had no Samsonite or no Gucci bag when you left. I don't know. Some people do. I just, if I remember, I think I had a pillowcase. All right. But out of all of those emotions, there was also hope. I also had hope. It was like all of my senses woke up and started firing at full blast after being quiet for too long. So when you get out and it's like everything is loud, the traffic, the talking, the notifications on phones, all the lights, man, the lights. Oh my God. I can remember the first time I walked into a convenience store just to grab something simple. I think I was just going to get something to drink, you know? And I just froze up. It was so much stuff. I walked in that place because we stopped, like I said, we in a country in a rural area. And so, we make a gas stop, whatever. And I can remember walking into a convenience store, a gas station, and it was so much stuff going. People were walking freely without nobody saying anything. So people were like, it was like I can remember like rows of snacks, like rows of snacks. I mean, this is the biggest store I ever seen. It's all of it right here. Like most of my commissary I never seen. They just put what I bought in a bag or something, right? I had like choice. It was like potato chips down this line, cakes down this line, bro. They got motor oil. What do we even put motor oil? I remember they would put motor oil in cars, right? But they got a whole line for this. I'm like, damn, do I need any of that without having a car? So I just simply froze. It was too many choices, too many people. I hadn't had like real money like in years. Like real money. I touched money while I was in there, like, that's neither here nor there, but like real money in my hands in years. I hadn't even used a debit card before. Yeah, I had credit cards before, but no debit cards. And now everything was like different. Like it was like tapping or you scan or some kind of app. People were like putting their phones, excuse me, people putting their phones on to pay for stuff, right? I felt like an alien on my own planet, planet Antoine, planet Rivers. Right? You walk out expecting to feel like yourself again, but who even is that? The person you were before the cell door closed doesn't always exist anymore. You've changed. I changed. The world's changed. People have moved on. And here we are trying to catch up to conversation about things you never knew even happened. Your nephew's grown. Your parents look older. If your parents are still around, right? Your old neighborhood might not even, it might be gentrified. It might be a lot of different type of people living in your neighborhood. Right? Everything's different. They look the same, but it's way different. Now it's exciting, so don't get me wrong. It was an exciting experience. I don't want to do it again. But you wake up that first morning and you can make your own coffee. For all the old timers on here, people that's been in and out, please comment. Go to the Conviction Fiction on my socials. What was it like when you first woke up that morning? I mean, you got through got through the gate, went through your convenience store moment, made it home or wherever you were going to live at that time. What was that next morning like? Do you remember going outside without asking nobody? Do you remember like using a phone? Hopefully you had a phone or something. You call somebody and actually hear somebody answer the phone without having to wait to see if they're going to accept the charges. So those are things that we go through. But at the same time, there was a certain amount of pressure that I had. And this pressure was silent. It was heavy pressure. Like, now what? What do I do with my freedom? How do I not mess this up? What if I do mess up? What if I can't make it? Now, there's no user manual for reentry. It's trial by fire. And that's what this podcast is about. We are trying to give like a little manual, like these are things that you should expect. Now, people hand you a couple of pamphlets and tell you good luck and expect you to hit the ground running. But for someone who's been locked up for decades, the ground is moving. Don't tell me to hit the ground running when the ground is moving, and it's moving really, really, really fast. Okay? So after catching up, right? That's what they say. I had one guest, Robbie Garrett. Shout out Robbie. Shout out T-Town. Hey, T-Town doing this thing out here. Want to give a shout out. We gotta get you back. But I can remember him saying people were throwing a party. He wanted a party when he got home, and his folks was like, bro, do you have underwear? What do you mean throw a party? You don't even have underwear. Well, good. A couple sets of underwear, right? We want to have an underwear party, right? And catching up doesn't just mean finding a job or a place to stay or catching up with friends. It means mentally and emotionally processing your world that has evolved without you. So yeah, coming home feels like freedom, but it also feels like standing on the edge of something massive, like stepping into a new life with an old name, like being free, but still trying to find where and who you're supposed to be. It's beautiful and terrifying, but it's real. Now, before we dive deeper into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about why this topic and this entire podcast matters so much, right? When it comes to prison and incarceration, we're surrounded by noise. We've all seen the memes, the jokes about being someone else's cellie, or the wild TikTok showing what people are cooking up in the microwave, somebody getting their ass beat, or, going over or some shit like that. We've seen the reality shows that focus on the violence, the drama, the chaos. Like prison is some kind of twisted entertainment. And yeah, some of it might be true. Some of it might be even funny in the moment, right? I've watched a couple of videos where, niggas got people have cell phones and they're like, step down or some shit like that. I'm like, oh, this is not going to turn out good, right? And I try not to get into it because on the Conviction Fiction podcast, we're after something different. We want you to think outside of the box. We all know what happened in there because for so long, too many of us have been trapped inside of it, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. We've been confined by labels, by stigma, by a system that tells us once you've messed up, you're pretty much done. That your past is your final chapter. But we all know better. We live better. That's what this podcast is about. Exposing the real stories behind the bars, the healing, the harm, the heartbreak, and most importantly, the hope. Reentry after 15 or 20 years isn't just a transition, guys. People, it's a rebirth. You can't be entertained by the same stuff no more. I can remember back like Eleanor Roosevelt. It was always one of those things that kind of got to me. Because I remember, bro, like if you were been in prison, at first, the initial thought is fear. It's always fear, right? You get in, you see your first stab, and you're like, oh shit, what have I got myself into? What is going on? But over time, you've made peace with the chaos. Eleanor Roosevelt stated, and it's one of the greatest quotes that I've ever heard in my life. In a world full of chaos and confusion, it's all too easy to make peace with it. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's how I go. In a world of chaos and confusion, it's all too easy to make peace with it. So I can remember seeing someone get stabbed for the first time. Blood was gushing. It was all crazy, bro. I'm like, what the? I'm new, I'm like, what the? You know what I'm saying? And after about year, what was it, like year 2, year 3, year 4, definitely, I was like, man, downstairs somebody over there, we can't even go to the weight pile. We can't even go lift weights. The yard's gonna be closed because them stupid, ignorant people over on the other side done stab somebody. They finna lock us down. So it wasn't even about the human part of it. Somebody just got their life almost taken away from them. It was more about me being able to go outside. Right? I had made peace with the chaos and the confusion. And when you really start to understand that journey and you're coming back into society, right? You will fail yourself if you come home thinking like that's the way life goes. That's why we deal with the real issues here, because behind every number, every statistic, every mugshot is a human being. And if we want to change the system, we got to change the conversation. So if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the Conviction Fiction Podcast. We are glad that you are here. And if you've been here a while and rocking with us and going through some of the topics like PTSD and all that stuff, thank you for thinking deeper. And more importantly, not only did you think deeper, you are helping us break the cycle one episode at a time. Now, last week on the show, we dove into the mental health crisis surrounding solitary confinement. We talked about the psychological toll of extreme isolation and how that kind of punishment can leave lasting scars, especially for people who were already struggling before they even hit the yard, right? But this episode is what happens after that. What happens when the door opens and you're told that you're free, but you're stepping into a world that doesn't look anything like the one that you left. That's where we pick up today. In this episode, we're talking about the reentry journey, what it's really like to come home after 15, 20, even 30 years behind bars. And let me tell you something. Those first 48 hours, they're critical. Y'all heard the first 48, right? Well, this first 48 is very critical if you are getting into the reentry process. They can make or break your shot at a real second chance. So let's break down those first 2 days out. Now, some of us like go home to something. Some of us have not. I can remember, some guys, they would have like girlfriends or people that had been talking to on social media and chat lines. And there's people that held them down. They were, but you step outside the gates, maybe with a bus ticket and a few dollars in your pocket from the commissary. You might have a check. God forbid you have a check. Hopefully they give you some cash. Right? I can remember dudes, they gave me a money order and I didn't even have ID except for the prison ID. And now you just suddenly hit with a bunch of questions. I mean, they hit you like a flood. Like, where am I going to cash this check? Where am I going to live? How do I get a legal ID, a state ID, or my social security card back? Or do I even have clothes that fit? Because currently all I have is what I have on. How do I get a phone? Right? And if I do get a phone, who am I going to call? Right? And answer. Who am I going to call and they're going to answer? Okay. If you 30 years, how do I even use this smartphone? What does a job application look like now? And here's the thing. These aren't just like little inconveniences. They're barriers. They're real barriers. If you don't have the right support in place, they can stack up quick because questions are going to keep popping up in your mind. You go from actually being free to feeling completely lost. And that's why transitional housing programs and halfway homes matter so much. And some of those organizations that we blast on this podcast, they matter so much because those questions can turn into mountains fairly quickly, right? Now, these halfway houses and transitional houses that I'm speaking of, they're not just places to sleep, they're stability. They're places where someone can help you get an ID, help you learn how to send an email, help you to learn how to dress for a job interview, or just talk through whatever you're feeling. Because those first 48 hours, they can be full of anxiety, triggers, and decisions that could end you up one or two directions, right? Forward or right back to where you came from. Or right back to where you came from. So that's why reentry isn't just about opening a door, getting out. It's about building a bridge. And that bridge, let me tell you, folks, that bridge has to be strong. It has to be strong enough to carry all the weight that you have when you come home from prison. Everything. Everything. One of the biggest challenges that people face after coming home is something that's rarely talked about, and that's rebuilding their identity. We're not talking about credit. We're talking about your credibility, right? We're not talking about credit. The biggest thing that people sometimes overlook is that they have no idea how to rebuild their identity. We've created an identity while we were in, you know, you were a certain guy. You had to be a certain type of guy. I mean, if you were, I mean, and I don't mean to not like how people live their life or whatever, but if you wanted to come out on some solid shit, you had an identity. Everybody know who you were, right? So now that you're out, what is your identity? It can't be the one that you had in there. I'm just saying. It can't be. It can be, but you have to amend it a little bit because one of the biggest challenges that people face after coming home is something that's rarely talked about: rebuilding their identity. After 15, 20 years, your name might be the same, but who you are, what you value, how you see yourself, how you move through the world, that all has to be rediscovered, guys and gals. Institutionalization doesn't just affect how you follow rules, it affects how you think. Inside, your choices are made for you most of the time. Lights on, lights off. It's time to eat. Count time, go to bed. Time to go to shower. You don't have to decide what to wear. You know you're gonna put on that uniform. You're gonna put on that every day, right? You don't have to decide what to eat because it's already been prescribed for you. And you can go to the commissary and try to make up what you want, but like even that is limited. You don't have to decide where you got to be because your path is directed. You're gonna go to this class, or you're gonna go to lockup. You're gonna go to the yard, have some, confer with some other people, or you're gonna go to the weight pile, or you're gonna go to the basketball. You're gonna do something, right? So when you come home, even small decisions. What toothpaste to buy? You ever thought about that? What toothpaste did you buy when you first got home? They got like 3,000 toothpastes out there. What bus route to take if you're going to get a job? How you going to get there? Right? You got GPS and a smartphone, but how do you even use the smartphone to get to where you need to go? Okay. All of that can feel overwhelming. And that's what we call decision fatigue. And it's real. It can lead to stress, self-doubt, and even relapse if we don't acknowledge it. Then there's that family piece. Oh my God, maybe your mom's gone. God forbid, maybe your dad's gone. If you knew your dad, maybe he's gone now. Maybe he's trying to come back. Your partner, whoever you was rocking with before you locked up, she got like 3-4 kids now, 2 baby daddies. Your kids grew up without you. They don't really care about you like that. They feel that they've heard enough about you to know that you ain't shit, right? They probably heard enough about you that you ain't shit. Or maybe you got family who loves you, but they don't quite understand what you've been through or how to help. They don't know that you've actually changed, right? They'll give you a chance, and then as soon as you mess up, as soon as you make something or say something that seems kind of weird, then it's like, oh, this dude crazy. It's hard to show up for others when you're still trying to show up for yourself. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to show up for others when you're still trying to show up for yourself. All these people have these expectations on you, but you don't even know who the fuck you are. All right. So it's very important that you listen to this podcast and other podcasts that are dealing with the real issues of reentry. Even if you're out, that's my thing. This is for the people that's out. If you're on here, come share your story, because there are people that get out every day. I know we like to think like, and when you're in there, you'll never get out, but people get out every day. So let me tell you, it can be done. Look at Michael Wolff, who was exonerated after decades behind bars. Instead of giving up, he leaned into advocacy. He spoke at the Both Sides of the Gun event here in Atlanta. He shared his truth and is pushing for change. And this is a guy that was exonerated. He didn't even do the crime, but he did like 20, 30 years. He's a living example that your identity isn't what happened to you, it's what you do with it. Now, this stage of reentry, this part where you rebuild your identity, is about more than just survival. It's about growth. It's about becoming who you want to be, not just who you had to be inside. And that takes time, support, and patience with yourself and the entire process. Because I know for me, it's a funny story, man. I was living with someone, and I had like a little room tucked off, and like, I was sitting in the room, and it was like solitary confinement. I would do push-ups, like without the TV on or anything. I just get up and do push-ups. I was doing jumping jacks. Dang, I'm sitting there writing, and I could hear people on the outside moving, and I sat in this room and would not come out. I would not come out because I was like waiting for somebody to come open up the door and let me out, which was weird. Now that I think back to it, but like that's what the conditioning or institutionalization can do to you. All right. And let's talk about one of the biggest hurdles also, not just leaving a room when you're stuck in there. That was a hurdle for me. I was like, man, should I go out? Luckily, I had a bathroom right there, so I could just go to the bathroom. It's like a real cell, right? I had a bathroom, a bed, I had a TV, but like I didn't want to venture out for the first 72, maybe 84 hours. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go out. I was just like content. I can do push. I took my shirt off and started doing push-ups and doing jumping jacks. And I know it was like, what the hell is he doing in there? I know it was like, what the hell is he doing in there? Jumping around. Now, another big hurdle is getting a job. I don't care how strong your mindset is. If you can't work, you can't eat. And for returning citizens, the unemployment process is full of landmines. First, there's that stigma. We talk about stigma a lot. You check that box on the app, and it asks you if you've ever been convicted of a felony. And boom, you're eliminated. Just like that, Squid Game, you're eliminated. Before they even meet you, they haven't talked to you at all. It doesn't matter if you've changed or if you're certified, if you got some type of trade, if you're even ready. You're judged by a record, not your potential. And that's one of the things that we advocate on this show is to ban the box. Why not ban the box? It's a president that has a couple of felonies. Here in 2025, the president was elected with a couple of felonies, right? But, I can't get a job or move into an apartment complex because I have this little check mark that I have to fill out to be honest with you guys, right? One of the things I encourage you guys to do, because they nine times out of 10, they'll have something on there like, have you been convicted of a felony within the past 5 or 7 years? Not really. I've been locked up 20. No, I have not been convicted of a felony in 7 years, right? Then there's the skill gap, okay? So technologies move fast. Maybe the world's gone digital, and it has. If you've been behind bars for a significant amount of time, the world has gone digital. and you've probably never even filled out an online application or used an Excel spreadsheet or worked a modern point of sale system, like the little square tap your card type deals. That can make you feel unqualified, even if you've got the work ethic of 5 people. So, what do? A lot of folks start with what's available. They go to warehouses. I know I had a couple warehouse jobs. I didn't go to fast food. Because I had worked fast food before I was even arrested. And then of course fast food kind of led me to other stuff because I was like, I'm not doing this shit. So I mean, shout out to the fast food workers. I still love my Chick-fil-A. Fast food I still deal with, but I did not want to work there. So I jumped into warehouse jobs. I did some construction. You just find what's available, janitorial work, and then there's nothing wrong with that. Those jobs and these jobs help build my confidence, and it created structure. I had somewhere to go, and it also gave me a paycheck. But as always, I say you can take what you can, but you plan for what you want, right? So you're getting the experience, you're getting the networking, you're getting a resume build, right? You're getting all of that. So you take what you can from the job, but you plan for what you want. Okay. That's where second chance employers and workforce development programs come into play. There are organizations and companies that understand the power of redemption. They don't just give jobs, they give people a shot to rebuild, right? Give them a chance to talk about like what's going on. Groups like Marriott, groups like Dream Builders Foundation are doing this work on the ground every day. I've had the pleasure of working with Ebony Rostover, the founder of Dream Builders, on the show, where she started an organization after her husband was locked up, and seeing firsthand the gaps in reentry support. Now she's helping others bridge those gaps. Then we got Jessica Jones with Beyond the Chains, who is turning love and loss into leadership. She knows that work is about more than income. It's about identity, independence, and rebuilding self-worth. She's always self-worth. So she's always holding classes. Her and her husband have things going on, workshops and things of that nature in order to help people rebuild their lives. Right. I want to also shout out to Teens on Point. Right. Teens on Point, it deals with more at-risk youth, helps them get trades before they even see a penitentiary. Try to get them on the right track beforehand. Then we got Focus 21 Foundation with Dr. Terrence Berry. And of course, one more question with Dr. Travis Barber. They're doing great things here in Atlanta and abroad, and it's very important that they get their flowers now. I'd also want to spend a special shout out to brothers like Eric McDaniel, who came home and didn't just find work, he found purpose. Okay. He found purpose. He's a regular on this show. He's been on this podcast talking about trauma, PTSD, and the healing work it takes to stay out and whole. Right. If you've been listening and you've been denied a job, denied a second chance, I want you to keep pushing. Your past doesn't disqualify you. For those folks that don't believe in you or think you're making like bonehead decisions, you want to take it. If you're making bonehead decisions, then hey, you're going to get what you're going to get. But if they're not allowing you to grow or support the positive things that you have going, that doesn't disqualify you. Your effort, your commitment, your drive, that's your resume now. So just keep showing up, keep leveling up, and surround yourself with people who see who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Coming home after 15, 20, even 30 years, it's not just a physical journey. It's a mental and emotional one. That's very, very hard to do by yourself. So if you're going to talk about reentry, we have to talk about healing. So let me just pause real quick. Let me be real. Incarceration is straight trauma, period. Whether you're in general population, level 5, or you spend some time in a hole, that experience changes the way your mind works. It rewires how you see safety, how you trust, how you feel. And solitary confinement, that's a beast of its own. We talked about this last week. 23 hours a day in a cell the size of a bathroom, no conversation, man, no sunlight, just your thoughts echoing off the walls. You might go insane in there, but you don't always come out that way. You don't come out that way. The trauma doesn't end at the gate. It comes home with you. I've talked to brothers who can't sleep with the lights off. Imagine that. Grown men can't sleep with the lights off. All right? Grown, you 6'4", 250, but you can't sleep with the lights off. Can't be in a room with the door closed. Right? Can't stand in the grocery store without your heart racing. That's PTSD. That's real. And it's happening to our people every day. Right now. Some people come home emotionally numb, unable to cry, unable to love, unable to connect. Others come home angry, jumpy, paranoid. That was me. I was one of those angry, jumpy, paranoid type of dudes. 1 minute you're hugging your niece, the next you're scanning the room like you're back on the yard. Like I was like looking, at birthday parties. I would go to a birthday party with my niece, right? And feel as if, I was in some type of danger. It's hard to explain unless you've lived it. It's hard to explain, but I know some of you listening right now, you do get it, right? That's why you are faithful to Conviction Fiction podcasters, why you listen to us. This is why mental health matters, guys. It really does matter. I know in our communities, therapy isn't always the go-to. We're taught to be strong, to suck it up, to, man up, man. Pull your, man, get some balls, bro. Or you could just, get into that, pray it away. Just keep praying and it'll go away. But bottling up pain just turns into poison. And we don't heal in silence. We heal always in truth. Okay? That's what we do. Now, there are some services out there for returning citizens. A lot of them have been on the podcast, but most times people just don't know where to go. Some states offer post-release counseling, peer support groups, trauma-informed therapy, nonprofits like the ones I talked about, Beyond the Chains, Focus 21 Foundation, Dream Builders. They're working to normalize therapy and reentry. They're connecting folks to real help, not just check the box kind of stuff, but real healing spaces. We got to do more to survive, people. We got to unpack what we went through, because you can't build a new life on a foundation full of cracks. Now I'm going to get into something that hits a little bit close to home for a lot of folks, and that's social reintegration and that stigma that we always talk about. Look, you can have a home plan. If you're listening right now, I want to get this podcast in prisons so that people know exactly what they're going to be expecting from people that are actually out here, boots on the ground, trying to help, or boots on the ground trying to get their lives together, right? I'm a work in progress, right? You can have your home plan right now. You can have a job, but if you don't have community, if you don't feel like you belong, it's hard to stay out. Isolation will pull you back into old patterns real quick. So coming home, you're trying to rebuild trust with family, friends, maybe a partner who held you down, or someone willing to give you a second chance. A lot of times they just move on. But either way, you're navigating all of these unspoken expectations. You're wondering, do they still see me? Or am I invisible? Do they just see my time? Like, man, he been locked up. He's been gone 25 years, right? What do they see? Then I'm not even going to get into dating. I wouldn't even recommend dating if you don't have someone that held you down. don't even go into the dating game right now, man. That's a whole nother layer. You're dealing with shame, fear, like that's one of like getting like, hey, nice to meet you. Y'all getting to know each other and all this kind of stuff. And it's gonna be a point where you got to say, like, yeah, I was locked up like 30 years. You don't want to wait till y'all like in bed and you're like crazy awkward or overly aggressive. Well, I don't know how that would work. I can't even remember the first time like having sex with a female. I'll think about that. Maybe we may build a show around that. That'd be something like I'm gonna try to remember back to that first time. Uh, Now I think about it, I do. I'll probably do it on a meme though. I'm not gonna do it right now. Right. But there was some shame, fear of rejection, wondering how and I was going to disclose my past. And let's be honest, there was a lot of judgment out there. Even people who claim to be woke or pro reform or progressive, they still clutch their purse sometimes when they hear, oh, you've been locked up 25 years. What? 15 years? What? You feel like othered. It's a term, othered in your own community. You're the others. Like you one of them, the one that went away. Now you feel like you got to prove you change every single day just to be seen, like you're. But listen, community support can change everything. Faith-based groups, mentorship programs, citizen support networks, podcasts like the not judged for surviving. I've seen brothers walk in church basement, sit in a circle, and cry for the first time in years. I've seen sisters come home and find sisterhood through organizations that see them as whole, not broken. Right? All of this is possible. You just got to stay the course. So now that we've explored some of the challenges, like getting a job, we our first 48 hours, that's like the toughest. Right? Everything from decision fatigue to figuring out how to survive those early moments. We need to talk about the tools and resources that make success possible. It's very important to know that you're not doing this alone. There are organizations out there, people out there. They're ready to help. People out here ready to help. So today I'm going to shine a light on some of those resources and support systems as we always do on the Conviction Fiction. These resources can help make the transition smoother and honestly more successful. Let's start with Marriott, making a difference in our community, Inc. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard me talk about this group before. You've heard about it. And just to highlight, this organization is all about supporting advocacy for justice involved individuals. Even with the youth, they help navigate through legal system problems, employment, housing, emotional recovery. They're really growing. The work that Marriott does is vital because it understands that reentry is not just about finding a place to stay. It's about staying safe, right? Staying safe, especially with a lot of the work that we do with the, I don't want to say homeless community, but like the displaced community here. Because we have to create places where people can reclaim their humanity after so many years of being told who they were and what they were worth. Then there's our Dream Builders Foundation, led by Ebony Rostover. She's been on this podcast a couple of times. She shared her powerful story and how the journey has opened her eyes to need for open her eyes to the need for better reentry support. She's a leader in this space up in Pennsylvania. Her and Dante Hayes, where Dream Builders focuses on offering mentorship and systemic reform. This organization believes in second chances, and Dante, Ebony, and the Dream Builders staff, they prove the power of a second chance. The Very, very powerful group up there. And we also want to give a shout out to Jessica Jones and the Beyond the Chains, another amazing nonprofit, been really pushing for systemic reform, not just for individuals. They help you set up businesses. They try to get you LLC so you can, not only um, gain employment, but gain your own piece of entrepreneurship, right? And I have classes all the time. It's a pleasure working with Beyond the Chains and Focus 21 Foundation. Dr. Terrence Berry and his group, they're very focused on the youth. And um, April, April Falk, right? April Falk with AP Rose Entertainment. Very excited to share that I will be on one of her panels coming up in the near future. And I also want to give a special shout out. I don't give enough praise to the pod movement, right? Pod movement, they have been, working tirelessly to make sure that people are not just advocacy, not just advocacy. Pod movement is about mentorship, helping people reintegrate and succeed post incarceration, right? Um, Very excited that they are going to have their second annual Pod Movement car show coming up this Saturday here in the great state of Georgia, Forest Park, Georgia. If you're in the area, please look up the Pod Movement second annual car show. I'll be there. Might bring the podcast equipment with me, go live a couple of times just to get some of that positive energy on me. And next week, Christopher Willers will be receiving a proclamation from the great city of Atlanta, College Park, where, his work out in the community with the Life Unit is going to be recognized. Also, shout out to Shakur over at Teens on Point. It's a bit different because it focuses on at-risk youth and giving them the tools to avoid the mistakes that might land them in prison in the first place. But I think what they're doing is critical because it speaks to the cycle of incarceration and what we need to do to break it. They're teaching kids how to avoid the pitfalls and giving them alternatives, like giving them tradesmen, creating tradesmen and tradeswomen so that the familiar system that so many people end up trapped in, they don't see it. And let's just for real think about some of the more practical tools that can make a huge difference. Things like reentry toolkits. These are resource field guides that give you the information you need for getting your ID, getting your social security card, that pamphlet that shows you employment opportunities, housing assistance, and beyond. It's the nitty gritty of what you need to get on your feet. You need to cover everything from securing a valid ID so you can apply for jobs to finding transitional housing and transportation. Because sometimes it's that small stuff that feels the most overwhelming. Like, why can't I just get an ID? Why can't I get my social security card? Where do I go? What's the process for getting into a halfway house? A good reentry toolkit is gold. Um, and speaking of employment, there are second chance employees out there who are working with organizations like I spoke about today to help provide opportunities for people with a record. There are industries like construction, food services, warehouse jobs, and custodial services that often understand the value of hard work despite a criminal background. But here's the one thing, guys: don't settle. Don't settle. Don't ever settle. You're worthy of more than just getting by. And that's where having a good support system, whether through nonprofits, family, or even mentors, really makes that difference. Because to anyone listening right now who's been through this journey or is about to walk through those gates, this is for you. I want you to hear me when I say your past does not define you. You are more than your mistakes. You are more than the labels. society tries to slap on your back. You're more than just that number. You're stepping into a new chapter, and yes, it will be tough. I will not lie to you and say that it will not be tough. It will be downright fucking scary. But guess what? You don't have to do it alone. You got organizations like we talked about before. You got like podcasts like Christopher Willers and Dream Builders and Dr. Travis Barber and Dr. Terrence Berry. You got Octavius down here with the pod movement. You got all these people, right? You got advocates who are out here fighting for your chance to succeed. And you've got you, more importantly, you've got your strength, your story, and the opportunity to show the world who you really are. So start where you are. Use what you have. And don't stop showing up for yourself. You're every bit worth it. And for the rest of us who aren't coming home from prison, let's be a part of the solution. Advocate for second chance hiring policies. Mentor someone who's been through the system. Come on the podcast. Share your story. Share the steps that you had to been through, some of those fears that you went through. Donate to organizations that are making a real difference. Spend your time there. Share their stories. Your involvement matters. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Conviction Fiction. You can listen to this episode and all your episodes on any platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get them. Just search for the Conviction Fiction Podcast and join the conversation. As always, guys, don't forget to connect with us on social media, and let's keep breaking the cycle together. Let's keep shining a light on the real stories of those who are reclaiming their lives after incarceration. So until next time, stay strong and keep pushing forward. I hope to see some of you guys out April 19th in Forest Park for the second annual Pod Movement Car Show. Going to be a lot of positivity out there and a lot of people out there that are really changing the narrative. Peace.